due to the shutdown of the concentration camps throughout Southeast Asia?
Okay, I guess to address your first question, I wish we did have dialogue with Hanoi. I think the only way that you're going to ever reach any kind of accord is if you talk. Even though you might not like your neighbor, you got to talk to him in order to work out problems that you both have. And I would like to see us get establish diplomatic relations with Hanoi. It certainly is, you know, you have to look around and see what's happening in Europe to see that communism just doesn't work. And it's not going to take long before you're going to see it in China. As hard as they may suppress, it will do the same thing that's happened in Poland and East Germany and Czechoslovakia and Romania. These are all examples of why communism doesn't work. Russia itself is having diplomatic problems with their own people. Lithuania, Estonia, Latvia, Georgia, so many of the republics, quote unquote, that are part of Russia want to be free because they were never, they weren't like the United States that joined because they wanted to. These republics were all swallowed up. And I think the same is true for South and North Vietnam. I'd like to see a Vietnam that is democratic. The second part of your question was,
should America look out to allow more Vietnamese old people?
Oh, yeah. Oh yes. I'm a real strong advocate of getting the boat people, the Vietnamese, anyone that is in the internment camps, as they call them, and they are nothing more than concentration camps. Getting the Vietnamese out of Cambodia and Thailand, Laos, and all the other places where they have fled. And sometimes they went from the fire into the skillet. I hope our country will allow the Vietnamese people to immigrate here like they did the Jewish people after World War II, and the way that they did many other South American people and many other European people after the war. And I think that day will come, but it takes efforts on all of your part to get something like that to happen. You have to exercise this great American privilege that you have, and that is to vote and talk to your congressman and write your congressman, because it does work, doesn't it, Nancy? It may not always work 100%, but if you keep plugging and you keep writing and you keep enough pressure and you sit down enough in front of their doors, you don't have to take a gun. We learned in the 60s that if you just sit down in their door, they got to step over you, and they get tired of stepping over you. So they'll start listening to you. Any other questions? Yes?
What do you think about the refugee situation in Hong Kong concerning reputation?
With the Chinese or the Vietnamese? Yeah, you kind of have a two-pronged problem there. You have the Chinese problem with Hong Kong, where they know that they're going to become part of Red China, what, 99? 97. Okay. Never understood the Vietnamese problem in Hong Kong, because it's a free port, it's a free country, and yet the Vietnamese are treated probably worse than third-class citizens. And I think Hong Kong needs to be shaken real strong, because in 7 more years, they're going to have a rude awakening. Any other questions?
I have one question.
Yes.
I would like to show you some information about Vietnam today. And after you read this resume, I think I will answer your question. My first question: can the United States government make the political relationship with one country like Vietnam Communist today, the police state?
Can the United States do what with a police state?
That is the normalization with the communist Vietnam.
Well, I don't know how many of you have seen these statistics, but it really doesn't surprise me that the largest employer in Vietnam is the government and the Secret Service and the KGB, which is their equivalent of the KGB. And I don't think you can deal with that kind of a government until that government realizes that it's not going to work. And that takes time, unfortunately, but it has been proven by just looking at Eastern Europe, what has happened. This is staggering to see these kinds of statistics. I didn't even know that it was that bad. Yeah, that's very hard to deal with, and I think it's just going to take persistence on your part. And you have an advantage over here because you can speak up and do things. Our government works very slowly sometimes. There's lots of red tape you have to go through, and it's exasperating, but it does work. If you are persistent enough, it will work. And I think that this would be a very hard state to work with. But I think this will change. Economically, Vietnam is like all the other communist countries. They're really scraping the bottom. And you can only scrape the bottom so long until there is nothing left. And then you have to reach out. And they will reach out. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robert Miller. And I'd like to apologize to our view that by mistake, we put Round Tape. It's not the American national anthem.